everyone. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to the show my friend and colleague, Craig Coogan, who is the president of Lift and Transfer Specialists, which has been serving clients in California, Nevada, and Hawaii around accessibility needs for 25 years. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Well, thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here today.
The reason I wanted to speak with you, Craig, is so that I could share with my listeners a little bit about the work you do in helping people to stay in their homes and have better accessibility in their homes. So I thought we could start by you talking a little bit about your company, Lift and Transfer Specialists, and what you guys do.
Well, thank you. Yes, back in about 1997, I was doing construction work. My father was an interior designer, and I grew up in that field from a very young age. And so I had the chance in residential commercial projects to help with some interior design work, and involved in different fields, ceramic tile and wallpaper fields, and those kinds of things related to interior design, as well as the construction side. And at a certain point, I was introduced to the Sure Hands line of ceiling track systems and accessories and things. And before very long, I started doing installations of this type of equipment for the handicap industry. And within a couple of years, I expanded away from the construction side of things and really dedicated my career full time to the accessibility market.
Great. So talk to me a little bit about what Sure Hands is, what these track systems are. Let's describe it for our listeners, what exactly you're installing.
Right. So the Sure Hands product line is really all about clients that are in wheelchairs, that are non-ambulatory, and the difficulty of transfers from a wheelchair to a bed, getting into a bathtub, getting into other accessible equipment like standers, perhaps getting onto a therapy table for a therapy on the floor. We're lifting somebody up, no matter what the weight is. Even somebody as little as 35 to 50 pounds is on a repetitive basis, very taxing on another person's body to do all that lifting. And so I think of the disabled industry in a sense, is my one way of putting it, is there are those who are fully dependent and those who want to be independent. And so we can address both sides of that marketplace and tailor the products of the Sure Hands line to exactly that. So if somebody has a goal of moving from being independent and can do some rehab and therapy, and they want to be able to transfer independently, then we tailor a solution for that marketplace and that goal of that person. So we treat everybody as an individual and really pay a lot of attention to not just what's happening right now, but what you're expected to be doing in, say, 5, 10, 20 years from now, and gear a solution to that particular type of issue.
Oh, that's great. So I understand the kind of things that you might install would range maybe from something as simple as a chair lift to help someone get up and downstairs to a track system that they could be moved when they couldn't move themselves from their bedroom to the bathroom or to another living a part of the home. Is that right?
That's correct, Stephen. Yeah, that's exactly right. So when we go into a home, and we don't charge for any of our home assessments, it's really a free service that we offer. And we get the call, we do some evaluation on the phone, get some sense of where the difficulty in transfer is. If it's outside the house, how do you get in the house if there's a set of stairs that are in the way? There are options for stair lifts that can be simply installed versus something like a small elevator that you might need, a vertical platform lift, for instance.
Do you
it could
do
be that
those
a
as
ramp
well?
is a better solution. Pardon me?
Do you do vertical platform lifts as well?
Yes. So the range of products that we do handle is, we don't do the full construction on a home because we found that over many years of doing that prior, that the solutions for construction can be far more expensive to move walls, to create new living spaces. I'm not saying those are bad ideas. Certainly, those are very, very necessary and very appropriate, and when the time is right for those things. But they can cost quite a bit of money. Putting a solution, say, for a ceiling track system that takes you directly from the bed to your wheelchair and down through a couple of doors, maybe to a separate bathroom where there's a shower accessible, a need to be accessible there. The track can save you from remodeling because the track can be configured in many different, ways with, turns and switches and turntables to allow you to go in multiple directions to get from point A to point B without
So,
having to do major construction. So
yeah,
those are
no,
the
I get
track
that.
systems.
Yeah.
There are
So
ones
let
that
me
are
ask you,
mobile, that are on wheels.
yeah, before you go any further, I do want to ask about track systems because it's something that's always been a question of mine. I've always wondered about this. Let's suppose you have a client who is heavy set, who maybe weighs 200 or 300 pounds. How do you make sure that the track system isn't going to pull the wall material, the ceiling down? What is the trick to that?
Right. So we are specialty licensed contractors in both in the states that we do business in. So in California, it's important if you're going to be researching ceiling track systems and those types of products to make sure that your contractor is not just a B1 licensed contractor. That's not necessary to do what we do, but we have a C61 D21 specialty contractor licensing, and anybody that's in this industry needs to have that specialty license. That also means that we've been specially trained by the factory. And I've gone as far away as Belgium, where the main factory is located, to the Surehands factory in New York. And I actually helped them design their training facility out there for the other reps to be using across the country. So that's where my expertise comes in. We go into a person's home, we look at the structure of the ceiling, what's up there, do we need to reinforce it in some way to hold the track, a certain way? Can we go from one wall across the room to the other wall because maybe the ceiling is compromised, perhaps in a mobile home where really there is no structure there to mount to. So, or we go on the route of maybe something that's freestanding with two legs on either side of a room that allow it to be sitting, without being bolted to any of the structure. So we do take
That's
a look
cool.
carefully at what really is the goal that you want, and assess the construction of the house and how strong it is based on what we're installing and where you need to go.
So is your client typically the person who's going to use the services or these tools, or is it
Well, we always
a care
gear.
provider?
Yeah, yes, exactly. I was thinking of a conversation I had just yesterday with a client, and we do a lot of children that are born with disabilities, and cerebral
Mm,
palsy is one of the disabilities that we deal with. That there are multiple people that are born with that, right? So, and in that regard, they're fully assisted in a lot of cases, and so we go through funding sources, and we'll get into that in a moment, where people can get money to do different projects. But the questions that I ask everybody right from the get-go is, take me through your day. What happens when the person that you're talking about that needs the lift system, what do they do when they first wake up in the morning? Do they need to go right straight to the bathroom? Do you have to change them in the morning? Do they just get up and go for a coffee, or you take them to be a part of the living situation in the home and then you need to go to the bathroom? And how many times a day does that happen? And walk them step by step carefully through that thinking process. And based on that and those answers, and how they're living their daily life with that disabled person, I will choose and help them understand that, well, you don't really need a continuous track because that's going to be more expensive. You're only doing 3 lifts a day. So literally you could have separate small tracks and a portable motor that we can move from room to room and keep your costs down. But the woman that I spoke to yesterday, she's doing as many as 30 lifts a day with her
wow.
daughter from one end of the house to the other. And so there's really no choice there. And the best solution is to spend a little bit of more money up front, modify a couple of doorways, and we're going to have the track running from the living room to the bedroom to the bathroom and the therapy room, because that really is what she needs to be doing. It's going to eliminate the number of transfers that have to take place, because the lift will pick her up once and go to all these areas very, very simply and easily through the doorways and all that. So that's how I approach each client. And if it's someone that wants to transfer independently, then we will actually bring equipment to the house and
Mhm.
actually do a demo. Like,
Oh,
is this
wow.
really going to work for you? There's no second guessing. It's about, let's try this together. If you think you can do it, great. If it's going to take you a little while of learning process, well, that's okay too. But let's gear the product choices to what those goals are, and again, for long-term use.
How you touched on the issue of money. How do people afford this?
We do a lot of private pay clients, and some of them
Hmm.
just, can afford to do it. And I
Hmm.
think that, and I have some YouTube videos. So there is a
Hmm.
client on there that speaks to the point of, it cost me about, I think her project was about 18,000 to run a track from the bedroom to the bathroom, and it
Uh-huh.
had a turntable installed. Well, two things happened after she got this project done. The contractor that she had been talking to was speaking about $100,000 to blow out the side of the house and make the whole bathroom bigger and fully accessible. She didn't have to do that. So the 18,000 that she spent with lift and transfer and
Wow.
put in the Surehand ceiling track saved her right off the bat almost $78,000. Then she went to hire caregivers. The
Uh-huh.
caregiving agency gave her a discount because she had a ceiling track system, because it was going to be less stressful for her caregivers to do their work every day.
Oh, that's cool. So not only did she save money over a more expansive remodel by putting in your system, she also got a discount on in-home support services from the private pay agency that she was working with because it was going to
Absolutely.
be easier for them to serve her. But are there any grants or loans available from the states that your clients have ever been able to take advantage of in the states where you work?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
The state of California is, I think, one of the better funded states in some ways. Certainly, for those that are perhaps born with a disability, the regional centers provide funding. So the regional centers, there's 21 of them throughout the state of California. Each one has their own individual ways they go about their funding with clients. It's a payer of last resort, so you'd have to go through your Medi-Cal and get denials, Medicare denials, your insurance denials, and then as the last resort, they will pick up the tab for some of the things that you need to be done, they need to have done. Some of the regional centers do full-blown remodels, so they'll put in a handicap shower, and some will do less than that, and will provide ceiling track systems, van modifications, stair lifts, shower chairs, a lot of the products that you might need. If you're talking about other organizations like muscular dystrophy, where they do a lot of fundraising and their funds seem to be more limited, the same as spinal cord injury associations, those seem to be far less funded. I have had some clients, however, had really good success with GoFundMe campaigns,
Oh,
just going
wow.
online and sharing their story and having good luck with that. I've also done some really good work with Make-A-Wish Foundation, where we
You know,
tapped into funding from that. I'm working on a couple of clients right now in that regard. So
you know,
yes,
it's
and the
so,
Veterans Administration, the VA
yeah.
is also a very good source for funding, and there is a lot of funding available through them as well right now. So we tap into those different sources, and if you're a veteran, we try to help clients and steer them towards getting set up to be funded through that.
It's funny you mentioned GoFundMe. A colleague of mine who uses a wheelchair is needs to replace their accessible van, and they started a GoFundMe campaign, and they've raised, last I looked, over $20,000 towards the cost of a new accessible van. So GoFundMe campaigns
That's
can
awesome.
absolutely work if you have a big circle of people who care about you. And who you want to reach out to. But it does raise another question for me. In the context of, California's regional center system there, and also with all the people I've interviewed at care service providers around the country, do you ever have clients who are actual service providers who have many, many clients that bring you back again and again to do jobs?
Absolutely. The Occupational Therapy Association, occupational therapists really are the key people in the industry. They're the ones who have the client base. They know what people's needs are. They're the first to call the action to go out to see what's going on in a person's home in many cases. And so they're the ones who, will refer out and ask for help. And that's who we built a lot of relationships with, the
That's very
hands-on
cool.
approach that we take here and go out with the occupational therapist. So we meet together at a particular home once they assess a need, and then we look at the solutions that are best suited for that, whether it's a stair lift, porch lift, ceiling track, you name it. So yes, that's
Oh,
absolutely
that's
true.
great. Now, do you ever encounter challenges when it comes to properties that are not owned by your client or by the agency that is serving them? For example, they're renting or they're in a condominium building where there's HOA issues around access, around modifications rather. Do you ever encounter problems like that?
I do get those comments made from clients. Well, I really can't do much because I'm only renting the unit. Well, there's reasonable accommodation laws in the state of
Of course.
California, right?
Yeah,
So
all over the
if
country,
you're putting
actually.
something in,
Yeah,
yeah, what's
yeah.
that, Steven?
It's all over the
Yeah.
country.
So that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, from what I understand, I'm not a lawyer, of course, but the idea is that if you return a place to the way you found it when you move out, and a lot of people think that putting in a ceiling track system, for example, is going to change things. It really does not. And it's just a matter of covering up a few bolt holes here and there and when we remove the system. And then it looks just like it did when you first moved in. So don't be afraid to make a decision based on a rental situation. We have our insurance. When we show that to the HOA or the property manager, the homeowner of the property, that's really what they're looking for, that somebody is properly licensed, doing it properly. We have all the workers' comp, all the things that are necessary. That's what makes a homeowner feel comfortable so that a renter can do some of these things.
I think that's really important for my listeners to know, that just because they are renting, or that does not mean they can't have reasonable accommodations to support their ability to live independently in their home, around accessibility and getting around. And so that's really good. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to touch a little bit about on the issue of the kind of things that you've encountered in your career. So can you share with me some maybe one of the more challenging installations that you've had over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got two in particular I'm thinking of, Stephen. And the first one, we got a call to do that famous TV show that was on for a while, the Extreme Makeover. So they
Uh-huh.
would go in and we'd build a house for somebody in a matter of a week. And so we did get a call for a fellow that was in south central Los Angeles. And unfortunately, he was a real good NBA prospect for basketball, and he was shot,
Oh no.
by some gang members, and he became completely quadriplegic. So they built two houses. We did it in a space of 7 days. And the challenge of,
Wow.
really watching all of this happening. And I got to know the crew of remember the guy Ty on the show and the rest of the actors, and actually got to hang out with them in their actors bus, so they loved the Sure Hands lift system that we put in, and they were actually getting in it and riding in it, and they were really, really promoting this whole idea of accessibility and ceiling track systems. And it really was great, not only for me personally and Sure Hands, but it let the entire country see that these kind of products existed. And
Yeah.
whether they bought from me or some other product line, it didn't matter. It was really all about, let's just get the word out and see that these things actually can be done. The other project, Stephen, that I had a great joy of doing over the last 25 years is we've put the Sure Hand ceiling track systems in 6 hotels in Las Vegas. So if you want to go on a vacation and you want to just get out of town, not everybody likes Vegas, but accessible hotel rooms are really something that I've tried to help promote. And in those 6 hotels, and we've got videos of those on YouTube, you can look it up under Lift and Transfer Specialists, go to Las Vegas hotels, and it'll pop up. But we've done such properties as the Treasure Island, Mirage, Bellagio, the Wynn, the Encore, and the Aria hotels, those 6. Even in the Canyon Ranch Spa, the Venetian, they have a ceiling track to get in the spa. So those projects were very involved, a long process from start to finish, as new construction can be, with building a 65-story hotel building. And yet, we've had multiple clients that keep going back there, enjoying the rooms, and letting that hotel marketplace know that, there is a market for this, for people that are disabled. They want to come and spend money just like anybody else in the hotel. So let's
Right.
give them the ability to do that. And so it's there. It's really great. I hope that more hotels will pick up on the clue that this marketplace is big, and they should not doing enough to address it.
Right.
One of the interesting parts of that, Stephen, and you're probably well aware that people call me a lot and they say, well, I want to go to a hotel. So, I just want to rent a mobile lift from you and use it when I'm there. I said, well, you got to call the hotel first and see if they've got platforms under the beds. And those platforms, as silly as they are, they must be easy for the hotel, because the maids in the hotels and the housekeeping doesn't have to worry about losing things under the beds, and it keeps the rooms cleaner, I suppose. But when you're in handicap and you want to use a mobile lift to get underneath that bed, you just can't use that. So I would love to see the ADA codes changed and to do what I did at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, right? So the Mandalay
Yeah.
Bay Hotel had the same issue. And I knew the woman who was in charge of guest services there. And she says, how can we solve this problem? This lady comes every year. She loves to bring her family. They spend their birthday here in the Mandalay Bay. What can we do? So I went up to the room and I said, look, here's all you got to do is cut out a small section of the platform underneath, put some Velcro on this piece you cut out, so you can always put it back in and you can keep your platform bed. But when somebody handicapped shows up, you just pop that little piece out from under the bed and you can use your lift under there. So that's such a simple solution that I wish
Yeah.
hotel builders and architects would think about. You don't have to do anything different and make something crazy build out. This is such a simple thing to do. and give a lot more people access to going to hotels.
Wow. I think that's great. That's great. So tell me about a situation where it was really challenging, where it was really hard to find a solution that worked, and how you manage that.
Well, again, it goes back to sizes of properties. And one of my other videos is on, it's called the small bathroom solution. Got a client that really felt they had to, modify and expand the bathroom, but they didn't have the money to do it. And the bathroom was as tiny as you can imagine, built in like the 1930s. And so the shower was all completely tiled in and just no room hardly to get in this 24-inch wide door. And the toilet was literally 2 feet away from that. And so, by putting a track system in that had a turntable attached to it right there in the bathroom to make a complete straight 90-degree bend and get into this really tight situation, it was a great solution. And the
Oh,
clients were
wow.
extremely happy with that. Other scenarios, mobile homes can be really challenging. So setting up systems to work in those confined and non-structural elements, creating something freestanding that can go and span across the space. Those were challenges. Some of the ramps that we've designed that were really, really long, another thing to consider, when I look at someone's home, because I came from the interior design background, I don't want to change what someone's house looks like. I don't want to make it look like somebody disabled lives there if I can possibly do that. So, the choice of something like maybe a ramp takes up a whole big space in front of a house. It's kind of a sign to everybody else in the neighborhood, somebody handicaps living in there. Are they going to get taken advantage of? Those kinds of things I think are important to think about in the design process. So, hiding things behind some trees, or putting an elevator in there that might cost a little bit more can also keep some privacy for somebody, right? So
Yeah, and
those are
that's
some
really important.
challenges that I find in design,
Yeah. No, no,
just
that's
design it so that it's workable for the person, but also not a sore eye when it's done. And you just take that caringness into a design process with the client and walk them through choices and let them understand that side of it. They may not even be thinking about that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you are, because I think aesthetics are so misunderstood in the area of home modification, and people have this idea that there's gonna make them somehow make their home look less attractive, and it doesn't need to be that way. So I'm really glad that you're thinking about that and you bring that into your thought process. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, Craig. Um, You've been doing this for a long time. I've known you since I got involved in real estate, and I've been doing real estate for more than 18 years. And you were telling me before, a quarter century, 25 years in this sort of work. What have you noticed has been the biggest change that you've observed in your work since you started?
I would say that the biggest change, Stephen, is that there are more people that have gotten into the field of
Ah,
accessibility products and design. Yeah, for me, yeah, I got more competition, right? But that's okay. There's room for everybody in the marketplace to do the right things. Uh, Proper licensing is really important for people to have. And there are a lot of people in the industry that sort of get in, maybe somebody in their family is disabled, so they get access to product lines and want to do things a little bit cheaper for themselves, but they may not necessarily know the construction side of things. So what I've seen is an uptick in the number of qualified people out there to do the work. And I think
I
that's
see.
good for everybody overall. Everybody in the industry that knows each other, and it's a very small industry. I know all the people across the country who do
Mhm.
this sort of thing. I know all the players in California who do this. And if, as long as all of us do the right thing by the client, then it benefits everybody, the client
That's
and the
right.
industry itself, all of us
That's
as
right.
suppliers. It's just important that we over interact with each other in a good way and help each other out when we can.
Have you observed any improvements in product quality, or any indication of product quality having more technology over the years?
That's a good point. You're right. I've seen motors that we had installed 25 years ago. Amazingly, some of those systems are still in use. And so the quality of the Surehands product line in particular is the reason I stuck with that line, because it's just so highly, well built in
Right.
Belgium. And I've been to
Right.
the factory. I know the owners there really well. They continue to make improvements in their infrared technology. For those that want to do independent transfer, very, very important part of the industry. And their motors have reduced the number of circuit boards that are in the motor, so there's less maintenance to worry about, but better quality boards. Just the look of the track, again, the aesthetics, what things look like when it's installed has really changed quite a bit. The quality of the slings has improved, and they do tests on every product, 100,000 tests before they'll
Yeah.
approve something, versus some of the other manufacturers might do something with, say, 10,000 tests on a product. So those things, I think, you really tell the difference between products that are going to last you a lifetime versus something that, you're going to pay less for and get less quality.
No,
Those
it
products
always
are
comes
still
down
on
to
the
that.
marketplace. I wish they weren't there,
Yeah.
but I think improvements from manufacturers, regulations on an international basis drive that sort of thing too, Stephen.
Yeah.
Something as simple as our circuit boards in some of the products had lead soldering. Well, when lead got banned from the marketplace, and not only in the medical industry, but electronics and music, and that changed how the actual things can work. So it took some time for companies to figure out what solder works better than lead, or just as good as lead. And that's a
Right.
process that, it doesn't get taken into consideration. People ask, why is it so expensive for medical products? Well, insurance is very high. I pay a lot of money for insurance because I do the hotels in Vegas and other things.
Yeah.
But that's important that people know that I have that.
Right.
The development costs for coming out with products to make sure they're safe. When you do 100,000 tests on each product, that takes time and staff in Belgium
Yeah.
to do all that. So
Yeah.
that's part of the process.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me about this, Craig. I have one last question, two last questions. First question is, what got you passionate about this? I can feel your passion about talking about this in our conversation. How did you, why does this speak to you?
Well, an interesting story for me, Stephen, you probably don't even know it, but when I was 18, 19 years old, I was in a car accident and I had a head-on collision, and some people died in the other car. I
Mhm.
was severely injured, facial and arm injuries. And I was shown x-rays of my spinal cord, and I was just a couple of millimeters away from being a quadriplegic myself.
Wow.
And I could myself be someone that's in a power chair and trying to live that life. And I've often thought about that. And then when this opportunity presented itself back in 1997, when I got started and I started installing systems, that resonated with me, that I could easily have been in the same situation myself, for the sake, for the just God blessed me in a way that I just, couldn't
Yeah.
ever, be more thankful for. But when I see people who really need help, Stephen, I come from my heart and my soul to help people out. And I take everybody as an individual. And when I started doing that, that was it for me. I was hooked. And here I am 25 years later, and I wake up every day looking, who can I help today? So I
Oh,
love it.
that's great. Thank you for sharing that story. No, I didn't know that. That's profound, and I can imagine how traumatic that must have been at the time. My goodness. Um,
Yeah.
so we're mostly out of time. I had one last question for you, Craig. If folks, I know you touched on it earlier, but maybe we could just reiterate. If folks want to learn more, they want to watch your videos, they want to learn about your service, how do they do that?
Yeah, we have a website, Stephen, and it's
Hmm.
just our company name,
Hmm.
liftandtransferspecialist.com. You can see the sign behind me,
Hmm.
liftandtransferspecialist.com. If you go on YouTube, you can see the videos of projects that we've done. We're constantly adding more to that. So just YouTube, Lift and Transfer Specialist, hotels in Vegas, or small bathroom, it all comes up. So we're there. We're
Awesome.
easily found. We have a toll-free phone number, 877-542-5438. That's 877-542-5438. You can call us anytime, and we'll be happy to come
Awesome.
out and refer you to the right person that can do a demonstration and evaluate your house for what you need.
Well, thank you so much for making the time. By the way, I'll put all those that information, the links in the show notes for the podcast. But thank you so much for making the time for this today. I really appreciate it.
Stephen, I thank you so much. I think you're doing an amazing, wonderful job yourself in the real estate sector, helping all those people. You and I have worked together on some of those projects, and I see the results that you've gotten too. So keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you.